Hey folks, welcome back to another review with yours truly, Sam Healey. And finally, my intro music has fit perfectly with the game that I am reviewing because we are taking a look at Mania from GDM Games. And it is a dice manipulation game where you are trying to take your band and get the most fame. The first person to 66 points is the winner, and that automatically triggers the end of the game. Let's get down to the table. I'll show you how it works. So here is a 4-player game of Mania set up for you. And basically what you're doing here is you're trying to race around this board and be the first person to get 66 points. Once that happens, the game immediately ends with that person being the winner. The way you score points is by rolling these dice and matching them to the different kinds of skills that your artists have on them. If you assign one of your dice to a person where the dice number of pips is lower than their ability in whatever category you've assigned it to, then that means you've got a hit. The number of pips on the die will equal points, and then you'll also be able to raise those different skill abilities on your player card in order to have other things that you can use to manipulate the dice or other people's dice on future turns. And so you're basically manipulating these dice to score points in such a way that you will be the first person to 66 points. There are other things that you can do as far as recruiting or auditioning new band members to replace the ones that you have in your band. And when you do that, you're going to be getting victory points for the person who leaves your band. At a certain point, once you reach 15, you're signed by a record label of your choice, which will provide more bonuses to your different skill categories determined by the different kinds of musical or metal styles that are there. So you've got hard rock, extreme metal, heavy metal, and I think that's about it. But that is basically the gist of the game. It is a race to get to 66 points first, and who's ever able to do that in the most efficient way, it will be the winner. On your turn, you're going to be rolling dice, and the first thing you do is you're going to take 2 dice and roll them and see what kind of bonus or negative thing that you're going to get in your first part of your turn. So you roll the dice, so I put them together, I have 6, so I can make somebody else make one of their guys become troublesome, which simply just means you're going to place it in a horizontal fashion, which means they're not going to be scoring them any points when it comes to their turn. So I would do that to one of them. But other possibilities are everybody loses 2 gold and you gain 6. Or money. You gain 4. Somebody else loses 4 points. You get 2 points. You get to automatically do an extra audition, which is over on the other side of the board, and we'll get to that in just a few moments. You can write up one of your troublesome guys. Here, you can. You're going to be losing $4. You're going to gain $2. This is somebody else losing $4. Sorry. This is you gaining $2. This one is allowing you to do, you and somebody else can do a revelry, which means that you're going to be able to take some of those guys who are troublesome or ineffective and write them if you get the correct die roll. And this one is everybody gets to do that. If you roll boxcars, then it's good for everybody, kind of. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take a die for each member of your band and roll it. So you roll those like this and you bring it back. Now, as I said before, you're trying to roll underneath these different abilities that are on your card. 6s are always bad. They always count as failure, but you can manipulate the dice in the middle of your turn, which is what you should probably try to do on the offset. So for example, if we have these different abilities here, we can use them. We have performance and recording and advertising. And these different things will allow you to do other things. So performances will get you more fame points. Recording will give you the ability to re-roll dice. And then your advertising is going to give you the ability to manipulate the pips on each die, 1, 2, or 3. Once you get up to these higher levels, you can choose which one of the lower ones that you use if you use that ability. So that's a cool thing, and it's another reason why you want to push these up as quickly as possible. So after a little bit of deliberation, I decided to put my dice on these respects. So with Dave Hurry here, I'm going to put this to his performance skill, which allows me to go up 1 here. And then I'm going to, for Ringo McBrain over here, I'm going to put this on his advertising skill, which allows me to go up 1 here. Now, since I had at least 2 hits, these 2 were failures, but because I had at least 2 hits, I then get to take the number of fame points equal to the pips on those hit dice. And then, if I wanted to, I could use these immediately. So I could use this, which I'm going to, and get an extra point up to 7. But now it's unusable until the beginning of my next turn, which then they would flip over where they are, and I could continue to move it up. I could use this right now to manipulate one of these dice. So if I had a 5 on one of these 2 things, I would probably want to do that, because then a 5 would be just a routine performance, which means it's not bad. They don't become troublesome or inactive. But they also don't get you any points. But since I don't have any 5s in here, I'm just going to leave that there, because I can use that on another person's turn to affect their die roll. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But since both of these were 6s, we're going to go ahead and make both of them go to troublesome, like so. And that's the end of the second part of my turn. Then we move on to the audition, funds, or beers phase. So in the next phase, we're going to look here, and if I want to go for funds, I would roll a die and then add 6 to the die roll, and that's how much money I will be able to do. Or I can go on an audition and recruit somebody new for my team. Or I can go on a revelry and try to score, try to get some of these guys out of the funk that they're in. And I would do that by, just to give you an idea, I would be rolling, for example, if I tried to do Jack Billy here, I roll 2 dice. And as long as I don't roll a 6, which I didn't, that was a good party, he comes back to active state. But if I did roll a 6, he would actually turn into inactive, because his partying has basically knocked him out from being effective in the band, and so forth and so on. So doing the revelry is kind of a gamble, but sometimes, if you're inactive, you don't have anything to lose. And it's possible that you can go from inactive all the way up to active with a dynamite die roll. Now, auditioning is where you're going to spend the money that you have on your player board. Everybody starts with $13, by the way. Basically, what we're going to be doing here is we pay an amount of money equal to their auditioning value here. So if I wanted Steve Parrish, I would pay $3 and put him into my band. Now, if I replace somebody, for example, he is a bassist, and if I replace Buff here with this guy, which isn't a bad idea because he's got a 5, he's got a 4, he's pretty good, so I'm going to go ahead and do that, actually. I'm going to spend $3, which takes me down to 10, and I'm going to replace Buff here with Steve Parrish, which does a couple things. First of all, it gives me an active guy, and he's going to give me another fame point, so that'll bring me up to 8 for my turn. And then Buff is done away with, and another person takes his place. And so that's how auditioning works. Finally, you have to spend money, $1 for each person in your band, whether they are troublesome, active, or inactive. And so that would mean I have $10, which means I go down to 6, because 10 minus 4 is 6. And then that would be the end of my turn. And that's basically how the game is played. The first person to 66 points is the winner, with people doing the same things in every single turn until somebody reaches that goal, that finish line. So there you have it for Metal Mania. As I said before, it is simply a dice manipulation game where you are trying to get those dice to be as high as they possibly can so that you're scoring as many points throughout the course of your turn as possible, manipulating the different skills that you have so that you can re-roll some dice, change the pips on them, score extra bonus victory points, all this kind of stuff. But at the same time, you're trying to keep the band members in your band from being troublesome or from partying too hard and taking themselves out of being an efficient member of the band and all this other kind of stuff so that you can score more points. That is the entire point. So, with all of that being said, I think that the theme will either make or break this game for you. If you're not a metalhead, and if you don't know what some of these caricatures or who some of these caricatures are, because by the way, these are really good artworks, really good caricatures of the people they are supposed to be representing. But if you don't know them, then you're not going to know that. And so the artwork is just going to kind of look kind of weird, kind of something that you would see from somebody on a beach somewhere. It's good, but it might be just too campy for you. So, like I said, this is either, the theme of this game is either going to make it or break it for some people. If you come at this with too much expectation, then you're setting yourself up for failure, because at the end of the day, it is simply a dice manipulation game where you're using your dice to score points. That's it. Now, you can be clever with the different things you can do, but it really comes down to rolling dice. And if you don't roll well, you're not going to be able to get those skills up to be able to manipulate the dice. So it's kind of a snowball effect where if you're doing well, you're going to continue to do well, or at least you won't do badly. But if you do badly and you continue to roll badly, then you might be stuck. Another pro is that it's very simple to play. I mean, the rule book is literally a pamphlet. I mean, we're talking 4 pages of rules here. Okay, cons for the game. Well, simply it's I've already kind of mentioned most of them. If you're not a metalhead, the theme is going to not appeal to you. And so again, the theme is either going to make it or break it for you. And this is a con because it could break it for you and just say, I don't care about this game because of the theme. So there's that. I don't know that the mechanics are strong enough to keep you if the theme doesn't grab you. So that's another con. And finally, the last con is simply that the rule book, it's so small that it doesn't address some of the questions that you might have during the course of the game. It could have been written better to allow for some of those questions. You know, more examples of gameplay, more definitions here, maybe a page that just has frequently asked questions. You know, for example, one of the things we ran into is, does the audition pile get refilled at the end of somebody's turn? Well, there's a deck of them sitting right there that are shuffled and left to the side of them. So does it refill or doesn't it? Well, the rulebook doesn't say so. So we just kind of assumed that, yeah, it does, because it makes sense. And that's the kind of thing that we ran into. So all in all, I think I really enjoyed this game. But again, I don't think I would have enjoyed it with a different theme on it. And that's an unfortunate thing. But even though I enjoyed it, I recognize the fact that it is a very simple, basic game. And it's not one that I'm going to be pulling out with a whole bunch of different people simply because it has a divisive theme on it. So because of that, it's going to get a 6 out of 10 for me, because while I enjoy it, I also recognize the fact that other people are not going to enjoy it because they have no investment in the theme at all. And I don't think the mechanisms are going to be strong enough, like I said before, I feel like a broken record, to keep people here who aren't drawn in by the theme. So that is it from me. 6 out of 10 for Metal Mania. I did enjoy it. I think if you're a metalhead, you should go out and grab this because I think you'll have fun just, thinking about all of these different people that you're going to have on your band and so forth and so on. So that's it from me for Metal Mania. We'll see you guys on the flip side.